Dear students, welcome back to Chem Aspire. In this lecture class, we are going to discuss about crystal field theory. This theory was proposed by Brett and Wanlek in the year 1952. Brett and Wanlek postulated this theory in 1952. Originally, this theory was applicable to ionic crystals, therefore it was called as crystal field theory. Later it was applied to complex compounds. So when we think about a complex, the first thing that comes to our mind is that there will be a central metal cation surrounded by the ligands, right? So when we talk about a complex, when we think about a complex, there will be a central metal cation surrounded by the ligands, right? Surrounded by the ligands. These ligands can be negatively charged ions. So what are the negatively charged ions we can think about? F minus, Cl minus, Cn minus, etc. Right? So the ligands can be negatively charged ions such as F minus, Cl minus and Cn minus, or it can even be a neutral molecules like ammonia and water. Neutral molecules like ammonia and water. So these negatively charged ions or negatively charged ligands are called as point charges. The negatively charged ligands are called as point charges. Right? So when we say that a negatively charged ligand is getting attracted towards the positive charge of the metal ion, and there is a formation of a complex. And if we consider that the ligand is a neutral molecule, then a question comes to our mind: how a neutral molecule will get attracted towards the positively charged cation? So the reason, the answer for this question is that when the neutral ligand approaches the central metal cation which is having a positive charge, the neutral ligand is being polarized by the positive charge of the metal cation, right? Suppose let me consider the example of ammonia, right? When ammonia is the neutral ligand, when it is getting attracted towards the positive metal cation, right? So the polarization takes place in the ligand by the positive charge of the metal cation. Therefore, a small negative charge will be created in the nitrogen and the hydrogen atoms will be getting a positive charge. Similarly, when we think about this water molecule, right? So when water is getting attracted towards the metal cation, right, a negative charge will be created in the O, and these two hydrogens will be getting a small fractional positive charge. Therefore, when the neutral ligand approaches, a polarity is created in the molecule, and this neutral negative part is getting attracted towards the positive charge of the metal, right? So with this understanding, and these neutral ligands are also called as the electric dipoles. This is called as the electric dipoles, or they are simply called as the dipoles. They are simply called as the dipoles. So the negative charged ligands are called as point charges, and the neutral molecules are called as electric dipoles, or they are simply called as the dipoles. Now with this understanding, let us move on to the salient features of this theory. Now I am going to discuss about 4 or 5 points under the salient features. So we will discuss the salient features of the theory. Salient features. So under this we are going to discuss some 5 points. So the first point is, so this CFT considers a complex which is having a central metal cation and it is being surrounded by the ligands. The ligands may be negatively charged ions, or there can be a neutral molecule. So CFT considers a complex containing central metal cation surrounded by the ligands. So this is the first postulate of CFT, surrounded by the ligands. This is the first postulate of CFT. Point number 2, or the second feature is that, so the ligands are considered as point charges. Ligands are considered as ligands are considered as point charges. We have already explained. So how the negatively charged ions and neutral molecules are acting as a point charges. So the second point is that ligands are considered as point charges. Then point number 3, CFT does not consider covalent bonding in complexes. Consider covalent bonding in complexes. It states that the attraction or the bond between the metal and the ligand is not covalent in nature. So the bond that is existing between the metal and the ligand is purely electrostatic in nature. There is a electrostatic force of attraction that is existing between the positive metal cation and the negative part of the ligands, right? So that is the third salient feature of the crystal field theory, right? So the fourth point is that there is no orbital overlapping. There is no orbital overlapping between the metal and the ligands. So CFT states that there is no orbital overlapping between the metal and the ligands. So what are the 4 points we have seen? So CFT considers there is a complex. If a complex, there is a central metal cation surrounded by the ligands. That is the first postulate. The postulate number 2, the ligands are considered as point charges. That is the point number 2. Point number 3 is that CFT does not consider covalent bonding in complexes. It states that the attraction between the metal and the ligand is purely electrostatic in nature. So this is the point number 3. Point number 4, there is no orbital overlap between the metal and the ligand. So these are the 4 points. Now coming to the 5th point of this theory, we have a central metal cation, right? So we have a central metal cation in a complex, and there are d orbitals in the metal. There are 5 d orbitals in the metal, and all these 5 d orbitals are having the same energy, or it is called as they are degenerate in nature. So point number 5 is that the d orbitals of the metal is degenerate. So what is the meaning of degenerate? All the 5d orbitals are having the same energy. We know there are 5d orbitals. So what are the 5d orbitals that exist in the metal? So we know that, so it is dx square minus y square, dz square, dxy, dyz and dxz. So these are the 5d orbitals in the metal, right? So CFT states that all the 5d orbitals of the metal is degenerate in nature. That means all the 5d orbitals, dx square minus y square, dz square, dxy, dyz and dxz are all having the same energy. That means electron can occupy in any one of these orbitals, right? So it is called as the degenerate state of the d orbitals. But however, CFT states that the degeneracy of this d orbital is disturbed when the ligand approaches the central metal cation for the formation of the complex. So let me repeat once again. So CFT states that all the 5d orbitals of the metal are degenerate in nature. That means all of them are having the same energy. But however, when the ligand approaches the central metal cation for forming a complex, the degeneracy of the metal cation is disturbed, right? So then now these orbitals are split into two sets of orbitals. The 5d orbitals are split into two sets of orbitals. They are called as the EG set of orbitals and T2G set of orbitals. These 5d orbitals are split into two sets of orbital, which is called as the EG set of orbitals, and T2G set of orbitals. So now let us see the structure of these 5d orbitals. Then we can clearly understand the difference in EG set of orbitals and T2G set of orbitals, right? So this EG set of orbitals, here it is dx square minus y square dz square. In dx square minus y square, here the lobes lie along the axis. For dx square minus y square, the lobes lie along the axis. Similarly, in dz square, the lobe lie along the axis. Whereas in these two are called as the EG set of orbitals. EG set of orbitals. So coming over here, for dxy orbital, the lobes lie in between the axis. So these were dxy orbital, right? Here when you see the structure of these d orbitals, so dx square minus y square and dz square orbital, they are called as the EG set of orbitals, where you can see that the lobes are lying along the axis. They are lying along the axis. And these T2G set of orbitals, dxy, dxz and dyz, you can see the lobes are lying in between the axis. They are lying in between the axis. And these three dxy, dxz and yz are the T2G set of orbitals. So here we have dx square minus y square and dz square orbital. And here we have dxy, dxz and dyz, right? So here the lobes are lying along the axis, here the lobes are lying in between the axis, and therefore these EG set of orbitals are called as the axial orbitals. EG set of orbitals are also called as the axial orbitals, and the T2G set of orbitals are called as the non-axial orbitals. They are called as the non-axial orbitals. Non-axial orbitals. Now, the letter E in EG, the letter E in EG represent doubly degenerate set. Doubly degenerate set. The letter E in EG represent doubly degenerate set, and the letter T in T2G represent triply degenerate set. Triply degenerate set. Triply degenerate set. So let us recall what we have studied in this class. So we have started with the salient features of the crystal field theory. So CFT considers a complex having a central metal cation surrounded by the ligands. That is point number 1. Point number 2, the ligands are considered as point charges. Point number 3, there is a pure electrostatic force of attraction existing between the metal and the ligand. Point number 4, there is no orbital overlap between the metal and the ligands. Point number 5, the d orbitals of the metal are all degenerate in nature, that is they have the same energy. But however, the degeneracy is disturbed when the ligand approaches the central metal cation, forming the complex. And the degenerate orbitals are split into two sets of orbitals, EG set of orbitals and T2G set of orbitals. EG set of orbitals are called as the axial orbitals because their lobes lie along the axis, whereas T2G set of orbitals are called as non-axial orbitals because their lobes lie in between the axis. The letter E in the EG set represents doubly degenerate, and the letter T in T2G represent triply degenerate. This is about crystal field theory. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you.